Welcome to the Elite Life with Trisha and Kylie. This is where we'll teach you how to develop grit, give yourself grace, and succeed in real estate. So let's dive in.
All right. Hey, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Elite Life Podcast. And today is an extra special one because we have the literal inspiration for this show as a whole. We would not be here today doing the Elite Life Podcast if I had not met our friends Brian and Liz Fullerton.
Yay. Oh my gosh.
They're like, really?
Sure. Well, thanks for having us on. This is awesome.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to have you. I've been like wanting to have you guys on since we started. And I'm like, well, it's really busy because it's summer, and it's really busy because Liz is having a baby, and now Liz is having another baby, and I'm like, well, it's probably always going to be really busy.
Stop getting pregnant, dude. Like, what the heck?
Talk to me. Talk to you.
Well, not me. Like, it's the Amazon guy, man. I don't know what's up.
I know. And then I was like, I'm really glad I asked you because I was listening to the podcast. You're like, yeah, we're having 4 kids, and I'm like, shh.
There's
no like 10 years. I'm never getting them on.
This is the dark ages. Like the next 8 years, just get us when you can because we're unavailable or we're always available. It's one of the two. So
we're always doing something.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to meet you guys because, of course, I've heard about you guys so much and I've listened to your show.
Well, thank you.
And I think my first was when you were on the show. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, holy crap, this is a good show. And like, she was like, podcast. And I'm like, people don't do that. Like, they're listening to Pandora. And she's like, yeah, the podcasts are on Pandora. I'm like, nobody does that. And she's like, they do.
Yeah.
And now that's all I listen to. I'm like, Andy Frisella, Candace Owens, you guys. That's all I listen to now.
Wow, you're putting up with Candace Owens. We're putting up there with the Candace Owens and the Andy Frisellas.
I'm telling you, I have a few shows I listen to because, again, there's only so much time.
I super appreciate that. That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah, so Brian and Liz have a little empire, for those of you who don't know them. They are business owners. They do live shows. I got to go speak at their LAL, which was super awesome.
That was cool.
It was so much fun. They do Together in the Trades, which I'll let them talk about. Brian just did a book, and I love how I see you guys both, like, you're always working, you're always grinding, you're always supporting each other, and you're always together, which I think is amazing because I have to do things like 75 hard to talk to Dave, and I'm like, why do I do this to myself, these challenges? And I'm like, oh, because it's the only way I'll actually have a conversation.
Like FaceTime.
So
We just go out to eat, but anyway.
I just picture Trisha wandering around the house, like, finally, like, hey, anybody?
Yeah.
Somebody here?
Doing kettlebell swings, right?
Right.
Of course.
Exactly.
Just go out to dinner. It's way easier. It's way more enjoyable than working out.
I know. My dad the other day was like, oh, did Angelina tell you that she's seen me at youth group? I'm like, I haven't seen Angelina in like 3 to 5 days.
Oh my God.
I was like, so I came home yesterday. Dave was like, can you pick her up from youth group? And I'm like, I absolutely can because I need to intentionally speak to her so she knows I still love her.
Hey, whatever, man. It's all good.
So wait till you have those 4 children and you're running them in between. Like, we do so much divide and conquer.
You have to.
So,
Yeah.
So we got the Tesla. It can drive them.
Just send the car.
You're just going to have like a whole fleet of Teslas. Like, send Emmy here.
Yeah, nothing says quality time and quality parenting like send the car, you know?
Don't just put them in the car.
No, we plan to have them never leave the house. Like, that's the idea. We want to build a school in the basement, right, for a future home. And then that way we never, like, lose track of them. And we get another 6-8 hours a day maybe, you know, back in the family time with them. And then if we want to, like, you know, go to, you know, swim practice, they can go in the backyard. Like, we have a pool. That'd be the idea, you know?
Building the compound.
Yeah, that's the idea. Oh,
Just totally unsocialized.
they might twitch, but that's okay. Like,
I love hearing about you guys. You guys are breaking ground on your new house,
Yes.
and that has been super fun listening to those episodes, buying windows in your barn and all of these things.
it's getting expensive.
Yeah.
I had no idea windows were so expensive.
Yeah, we're in the wrong business. We're all in the wrong business. If not windows, definitely the door wall business. The door wall alone.
The door wall alone.
A door wall is basically just a window, though. If you think about it, it's just a window.
Well, Brian couldn't just have a door wall.
Oh.
It like accordion folds. And
Oh, it's a whole thing.
It's the bifold door. You've seen them. And the door is like 25% of the budget. And I went, oh, well, that's cool.
window budget, not house budget.
No. Yeah.
Like, that's some
I
door.
was like, what is happening?
We're building a tiny house, actually. It's just the whole wall is the door wall. That's awesome.
All right, so Liz was telling us about how emotional she got over
Being homeless, but not homeless.
We
You
call
didn't have a
ourselves
home.
homeless.
Right. But I loved how you guys like enjoyed the land itself. Like you're always like riding your
Yeah.
your four-wheeler.
We're determined
you're
because, like,
visiting.
just because we bought the property, we wanted to start making memories, as long as we could on it. And so we've had a lot of fun, especially like recently in the snow, we took the four-wheeler out and we were able to take Emmy sledding, and it was fun, except we didn't really think about how cold it was and how wet you get, and then there's no inside.
Yes, going back home and driving 30 minutes where it's cold and wet and freezing out, that's not fun at all.
This is an interesting
You will
idea.
find as a parent, I was just talking about this with a girl, Rachel, in my office. She's like, I'm going to get my car and I'm going to do a road trip with my 2 kids to California. And I'm like, that's one of those parent ideas that seems like a good idea in your mind. You do not want to take 2 children under the age of 6 in a car to California.
30 hours?
You got to drive back. Like, even if you have fun on the way there, on the way back, you're going to rip your hair
I
out.
would like to point out you have to drive back and you have to bring the children.
Yes. So
Drive back
A nice
with all those
solo
kids and
drive
they'll be just
sounds
fine.
this happens all the time. I will tell you. Like, I had this great idea. Trent was little, and my dad had this water slide, right? Like, he pimped out his house with like gates and a water slide.
Yeah.
in Porter Road. So I had this great idea, right? This is what happens when you have children when you're 20, okay? I'm like, I'm going to take my kid down the water slide. He's a baby.
Okay.
So I climb up to the top of the water slide, and I get up there, and I'm like, what the fuck? My baby can't swim.
What if you get dislodged from each other?
Right. So like then I go back. Well, then I start sliding down. So I try to like grab on, and then my ring catches. So then my finger's gonna come off, and I have a baby on the top of a water slide.
my God.
So like I got down. Obviously, I saved my finger. My child was fine. But like there's so many times where you're just like, what
was I thinking?
This is not a good idea with a child. Like.
We've been there.
That's pretty much every flight we've ever taken with Emmy. We're like, why do we do this? We've done it. She's had 20 flights, and every time we've been, why are
Look,
we
we
doing
have
this to ourselves?
two parenting rules. I don't know if anybody can take anything away from this whole podcast from us, at least. 'Cause we're nobody.
We are not
special.
the experts.
We are Forrest Gump on our way to the finish line. But what I will tell you is like one of our great marriage and adulting tips and hacks so far, at least this is helping some couples out there because we're in the thick of it, is what's our 2 rules? After 1 a.m. at night through 6 a.m. in the morning, anything that's said doesn't count. Doesn't count.
So good.
Right? Because like if that's the case, we'd be probably divorced 38 times. Okay, like, and that's why there's no such thing as 24-hour divorce attorneys. You know what I'm saying?
They can make a lot of money.
If you're
Somebody should do
if you're struggling financially, become a 24-hour divorce attorney. Have those papers like a quick sign
ready to go.
on the DocuSign and sign that stuff at 3 a.m. Oh my God, you'll make tons and tons of business because every night at 3, 4 in the morning, I will kill you. And then it's like, that's usually Liz talking. And then I'm over here like, I'm sorry, I know I'm an idiot, you know? And then at 6 a.m., you kind of like, everybody falls asleep at about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, that twilight hour, right? And then everybody wakes up at 7. You go, what happened last night? It's like a world away.
You just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
You just
don't talk
like,
about
you
it.
see
it's
like
the
this
same thing on airplanes, though. We may
Yep.
as soon as that like door seals shut, nothing counts.
Nothing counts.
I
Like,
like that.
because Liz has this impeccable way of like saying like the best, meanest things in like with her eyes. Because like everything, you can hear everything on an airplane, right? Like so the
Right.
people behind you or next to you, Liz is like, oh, we'll kill you. And I'm like, what did you just say? And like she just blinks it, and I'm like, yeah, I messed up. And so she's like the baby's got a wet diaper. You're like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm on duty. So I'm like, yeah, honey, I'll be right back. But anything that happens when the plane shuts the doors or anything between 1 and 5 a.m., they don't count in your relationship.
I feel like that's
That's our quick life marriage.
I don't know if
tip.
it's healthy,
I
but
don't know how to sell homes, but
because
yeah.
my son is going through this thing where he has gotten himself into a habit of waking up between like 2:30 and 3:30 in the morning.
Yep.
And then you have to change their diaper, and so now they're stimulated, and he's like, "Oh, Coco."
Yeah.
I'm like, no, we're not doing Coco.
no.
So then you try and lay on the couch, and then you try and lay in bed, and then I closed everything off.
Yep.
make sure.
And I put stuff on the floor, and I was like, I'm going to sleep, homeboy. You want to
luck.
join me?
Good luck.
No, that's fine. Stay out of trouble.
Eats is all we get.
Yeah,
Our
that's
kids
our
like,
go-to.
we make all dinner, and then she picks at it, and then 2 hours later, like you said, midnight 1, 2,
Cheerios, yep.
eat, or milk, and I'm like, listen, kid, we're all going to sleep. Like,
Her favorite thing is when we leave the restaurant, as soon as we pull out of the parking lot, eat.
Eat?
We do.
I go-
That was your opportunity.
like your left eye twitches, you're like, listen, kid, I just spent $30 on your food, So now we just get a couple appetizers, and we're just like, listen, kid, buffet. pick at it all because you never know what they want. Like you get the mac and cheese, they wanted grapes. You get grapes. This is our parenting hack. We're in the thick of this, okay? So we haven't slept in 2 years, okay, folks? So it's been wild. But
it's a wonder we've gotten anything done.
Yeah. Now you get a couple. You get an entree. I get an entree. We get a couple apps, and like we don't even order her a meal anymore. We just let her sample. We're like, listen, you want some of my steak, some of Liz's chicken, some salad, some tomatoes.
The Mexican restaurants have been the best because she'll use the same chip. It's like salsa soup to her, and she will just
keep
same
scooping
chip.
it in.
I could do that with ranch.
Just go at it. It's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know how we got started on that.
This is not what we came here to talk about.
We're dropping nuggets.
Yeah.
We're dropping nuggets. That's
Squirrel.
all that was going on.
Squirrel.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is though, because my favorite thing about you guys is like you're building a brand, you're building an empire, but you're also like building your marriage and your family at the same time. And you bring that all online, like the good, the bad, the messy, like all of it. And I love that because I feel like not enough people do that, right? Like you see all this great stuff and then you see like me and Liz on there like, well, our hair's a mess and we have no makeup on, so I hope this works for you. This is what happened today. Like what made you guys decide to do that?
I mean, the whole social media thing is total accident. Like, to be honest with you, like it was not intentional. It was not thought out. It wasn't like, hey, here's our master 5-year plan.
There's actually a lot of things we would have changed had we intentionally gone into it. Like our business name is our channel name, and which makes it really easy for people to find like where we are, our home phone number, like things that we wouldn't necessarily want out there.
My cell phone's
we didn't think this through at all.
No, and it was total just happenstance, happens chance. Like we were just literally just kind of documenting a couple things along the way. I had always loved watching YouTube, you know, and you were always on Instagram. And long story short, we got a camera because you had wanted to make some extra income on the side and maybe quit your job and, you know, wanted to start a family. And we were freshly married. We were broke. We were broke as a joke. Like we had a 700 square foot apartment. You know, we had one of our claim to fame was, you want to tell the story?
We thought this was like the coolest feature of our home was that you could plug in our vacuum cleaner in one outlet and get the entire apartment without having to like
end to end
re-plug it in somewhere. It was that we posted about it on Facebook. It comes up on Memories once a year, and I'm like,
we were so just clueless. We were young, you know. You guys have like the starter apartments around here, like the little trap house apartments, you know.
Right.
Like it was a halfway house, okay. Like there's no doubt about it, and it was so funny because I remember the same story, like the efficiency of like, oh my God, we can like cook dinner, do a load of laundry and the dishes and the sink and like mop the, 9 square feet of floor.
And never have to take more than 3 steps. Everything's right here.
You know what I mean? And it was just like, but that was humble beginnings. And Liz had wanted to do some stuff with social media. We spent our life savings on like a Canon camera back in the day. It was, I don't know, $800. And that might as well have been $50,000.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it like that's insane to us. $800. And it was it was only 5-6 years ago, but it feels like it was yesterday, but it also feels like a lifestyle and a lifetime ago, right?
Life is just so different now that it seems like a whole other lifetime.
Yeah, and there was like 2 parallel paths. Well, there's a couple parallel paths, right? Like we were freshly married. We had a lawn care business that was like on life support. Then we started the social media thing, and it was kind of like this, what would you call it? Like a 2.0, like second wind of our life, you know? And it wasn't like, hey, we're going to document our life. It was just like, hey, I'm going to re-up on my lawn care landscaping business. I wanted to take things to the next level. As a single guy making 20, 30 grand a year net profit from your company, hey, you're like living the dream. Like Chipotle and double meat and, you're living at home, no big deal. But then when you get married and your wife's like, super materialistic, like I want a car that works. I want a house. I want to maybe be a stay-at-home mom. I was like, gosh, this woman is greedy.
Electric.
Yeah. I want to turn the car off and like take the key out and it actually turn off. Like
that was a thing.
You guys ever have those before? So I was like, man, this woman is so materialistic. I'm having fun, obviously. So I was like, okay, well, obviously our little Mickey Mouse life isn't going to cut it. And I was just turning 30, like 28, 29, 30. And I had a little midlife crisis. And I'm like, I legit had a midlife crisis though.
He did. We went to celebrate his 30th birthday and he's like, I don't want to see anybody. I don't want anybody to wish me happy birthday. Like, oh, you would figure like a woman would be more like this. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I put him in the car. Didn't tell him where we were going. Yeah, he's like crying.
My birthday was like a Thursday, and I sobbed all day. I literally was in bed, like depressed.
Because he thought he should have like a Lambo and like this mansion by 30. 30 sounds so old when you're young, And so we went to Charlevoix.
We probably had like legit probably $2,500 in our checking account. Like total net worth was like $2, and I'm like, I'm a loser, and you think at 30, like society expectations and success, and then Instagram and social media, like everybody's got the Lambo, everybody's got the nice home and the cute little kids, and like we had nothing, and I'm like, dude, not only we have nothing, like we were actually in debt, we were behind. Like the goal, like if 0 was the goal, like we were at -5, right? So like it wasn't even like, hey, hey, we're not performing at a high level. It was like, dude, we're basically losers. And I look around, I go, dude, everything has to change. And like, I always say this on our podcast, like for the external to change, like the internal's got to change first. And I was like, hey, there's a lot of ugliness here that we got to clean up. Like we were immature idiots. We were petty. We were emotionally unstable.
Very sarcastic.
Very like sarcastic. We would tear each other down instead of building each other up. Because I had like brothers. And like you don't go to like your brother and go, hey, what's up, buddy? Hey, what's up, winner? You go, hey, stupid, get the car.
Right.
You know, like,
Right,
like
right.
I had no like, you know, sisters or girlfriends like in my life. So when I met Liz, I'm like, hey, dork, get in the car. Like, and like that doesn't work for a woman.
Right, right.
And then she'd be crying, and I'm like, why are you so like emotionally weak? But guys are different than girls. So I had no idea how to treat Liz. Liz had a brother, but you know, it's not the same. And you know, we just had no idea how to work together, right? So like all these things kind of came to a head, and it was kind of like a catalyst. I'm like, hey, we need to like re-up in life.
Yeah. So I took him up north. We ended up. Did we sleep in the car that night? Or did we get?
No, I think we had the campsite.
Did we have a camp?
Yeah, we were big time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did we sleep in the car in the campsite?
With the KOA.
But remember sleeping in the car.
We
a
got up
possibility.
there.
I popped for a shower at the KOA. That's what Brian said.
It might have been. I mean, there's no doubt.
But I thought, take him out of town. We'll like just get him out of, the funk that he's in for his birthday, which is actually a huge mistake because we're in Charlotte, which is beautiful. There's all these people's vacation homes. We're sitting at lunch looking in the bay, and this huge boat pulls up, and Brian asked our waitress,
Oh, this is a great story.
when
I
does the
forgot about
dinner
this one.
cruise go out? And she's like, what dinner cruise? And he's like, the boat is it, like the
It
dinner
looks like
cruise
a
boat.
Carnival cruise ship.
Yeah.
I'm not even
She's
kidding.
like, sir, that's somebody's so-and-so's like private
Yeah.
boat. That's not.
It's not. There's no tickets for that. It's
I
somebody's
thought
yacht.
he was going to
And
have a
I just
total
sat back.
breakdown.
I was like, I'm a loser. Like back to where I was 2 days before after she's pumping
But
me
that
up.
trip, like, we got a lot figured out. We still go up there every year because that was our first experience. Like, it just does that for us at different levels each year. But that's where we kind of got things hammered out. Like, we have to make a change. Like, we're getting older. Like, if we want these things that we profess that we want, like, we have to have the action behind it.
Yeah.
And we got serious. We put this giant whiteboard. I mean, it's as big as this table.
Nice.
And we put all of our debts in our personal debts. Business debt is different to us than personal debt, and figured it out and wrote our goals. And it was, you couldn't miss it because our apartment, 700 square feet. It took up like the whole wall.
Time out.
Yeah.
That was a huge point of contention when we got back because I put this huge.
He put it
whiteboard.
up without like, is this a good spot? I just came home
screwed
one day and
into
it
the
was
wall.
drywall anchors that it is there.
Yeah, like it's in the living room. Like most people have a TV. We had this, 4 foot by 5 foot, big whiteboard, and it had all of our goals, all of our income, all of our debts, interest rates, monthly payments, balances. We were learning a lot from Kiyosaki and many other great people, and all that, everybody that you guys have access to as well. And I was like, hey, like
We started figuring it out.
we had to literally start. I always say like you can change with like a 2x4 across the face or like a little fine chisel. Like if you're
we did the 2x4.
like we were just taking sledgehammers to life. Like we were like, this wall's got to go. Like this has to change because we didn't have time. Like I was 30, she was 26. We're on a biological time clock. I've come to learn. I'm like, hey, if we want babies, like we need to figure this out. And we also came from really broken backgrounds and families. Like divorced parents for me, low income, double wide trailer. Liz grew up in Dearborn, Michigan. She's got the 313 area code. Like
I do.
she always says like she's from the
still
hood,
have
but broken family, no money or anything like that. So it was like, hey, there's a lot of stuff there's a lot of baggage here. And we were reading the books and, all the Barnes & Noble bestseller self-help books, right? And people make fun of that. Like you go to Barnes & Noble and you're like walking down the
We're
aisle.
like using it as a library, except we just read them while we're there and then come back the next day and pick up where we left off.
We did the $5 broke Barnes & Noble couple date, like you go get the Rob Report that somebody else had sliced open, right? And you're reading this like $7.99, magazine, $8 for a magazine, dude. Like there's no way that was not in the budget. Like we would go to Applebee's for back in the day $10, split a meal. Everybody's kind of been there, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, things have got to change. So
We actually had a conversation, like how you're talking, how you haven't seen Angela in a few days. We had to tell our parents, like, hey, we can't meet for weekly family dinners. It's just not, for this section of time in our life, we have to like figure this out. We aren't available to take a phone call at 3 p.m. We aren't available to take a phone call at 7 p.m.
right.
We'll talk to you when we talk to you, and it's just how it is. And we had these difficult conversations where we it is what it is.
Well-
I don't think anybody's complaining about the choices we made now, but
Yeah, then now everybody's like, oh, we always believed in you. I'm like, you know.
Right,
you guys get
When
that.
you were calling me a loser, totally, definitely, yeah.
So we can keep going on the story, but that's probably like the rock bottom part of it. But it was a tough, road to hoe. I mean, I don't want people like see like a Tesla now or like nicer stuff, or we're building the dream home, right? Like that's the American dream, right? But like that's not like we've been at this level for about 12 seconds,
Right.
Like we were in the thick of it in the the dumpster of it for 5-6 years.
But that's so inspiring because what couple hasn't been there where you're like, all right, we're just going to throw in the towel. And 90% of people just throw in the towel. They're like, I hate you. You hate me. You talk to me like crap. You talk to me like crap. You do crap without asking me in our house. You put this giant board up. And like a lot of people would get defensive, right? Like, oh, you're putting our life on blast. Oh, it's not good enough for you. Instead, you guys did some really hard work that most people wouldn't be willing to do. And like, it's so funny to me when you're like, oh, the Barnes & Noble date. No, most people when they're in their 20s, early 30s are the bar date, which then they're drinking and it's like accelerating their angriness, right? Like you did all the right things. And most people would be going to their family's house and going, well, Brian, he just sucks. He doesn't do anything. And Liz, she just wants more things. You guys didn't do it. You did it so right at every point. And I'm sure there's some messiness that was in there, but you took that mess and made an inspirational message instead of taking it and folding and just being like, well, it's crap.
Well,
We're good.
that's actually an interesting point that you bring up because we talk about that all the time. Like we could have settled. Right. And you can settle at every level. Like there's no, I don't even know if settling is the right word, but you can be complacent or you can just be happy and like satisfied. That's fine too. Like some people that want a satisfied, lifestyle at $100,000 a year, a $500,000 home and some nice $60,000 cars. Dude, that's awesome. Like nobody's judging. We're not judging. You're not judging. Hopefully you're not judging. But other people's success to them is I need to make $500,000 a year and I need, luxury cars and a luxury home with a pool and a country club membership. That's totally fine too. We just knew that the lifestyle that we wanted and the life that we wanted and what we wanted to eventually make available for our kids and also the abundance we wanted to create to take care of our family was going to require a certain amount of work.
and
Right,
we're
like-
both so hard-headed too.
And so like here's the deal. If you want different things in life, like you have to pay the price for that level, right? So if you walk into a nice designer store and there's a $1,500 purse, some people are going to walk by and go, I'm not paying $1,500 for that purse. You're out of your freaking mind. And other people are going to go, I'll pay $1,500 for that purse. And then other people go, $1,500, that's a good deal.
Right.
Right. And so like we were walking through life and I'm like, hey, there's a life that we want to achieve. It's going to take some time, some sacrifice, some effort. We didn't have it all, all the green lights laid out. There's no way. We one of our life principles is called peak to peak principle. And we learned this along the way. But, you look at a mountain, you're like, man, I'll never get to the top of that peak. But you start climbing, whatever the analogy is. You get to that peak and you go, dude, we made it. And then once you look out, you realize, shit, there's another peak. Mm-hmm. But like you didn't see the second peak until you got to the top of the first peak.
Yeah.
So stop trying to climb Mount Everest and just get to the first ridge, get to the first peak. So when we made maybe we made $50,000 a year, we made $100,000 a year that year. We're like, dude, we made it. And we look around, we're like, okay, like
We're losers again.
yeah, or for sure. Or we're like, hey, do we want to like take a breath, reevaluate, and do we want to climb that next level? Like it's not a forever mountain. Like there's different ridges and checkpoints.
Yes.
Like we just went to Park City, Utah. It's 7,200 elevation. But before that is Alta, whatever it is. Alta, and it's like 6,700 elevation. By the way, there's Stein Eriksen, this beautiful lodge. It's at about 7,800 elevation, right? So like there's these little camps and checkpoints and income levels and lifestyle levels. And it's like, dude, you just got to figure out what you want to do. And I was like, hey, like we're not doing the things that this is the dissonance, right? It's called cognitive dissonance. Like what you're doing versus like what you should be doing, your brain's like freaks out. And I was like, dude, we are not doing the things that is required to get to the life that we're saying. Like either stop bullshitting each other,
Right.
right? Or let's come up to reality or down to reality. Like if we're not going to pay the price, then just stop bitching.
Yeah.
And so many times people are like, oh, I want this, I want that. I'm like, well, your activity and your schedule and your calendar doesn't say that.
Right.
Especially in like real estate or when you're self-employed, you're independent. Like
For sure.
it's like, oh man, I want to make $300,000 this year. I'm like, well, you didn't book any appointments this week, and then you went out of town and you went golfing. Like, no, like your peers that are going to hit those levels are paying dues, and we've paid a lot of dues. Like we've sacrificed a lot along the way, and I wouldn't even say sacrifice. We've invested.
We've always been on the same page before doing something like that. Like, I get a lot of questions from the guys in our space, like, how do I get my wife on board with what I'm trying to accomplish? I'm like, well, does she even want what you want? Like, have you even talked to her?
Yeah.
And
what does that require?
Yeah. So we've never like forced the other one into something.
No, not at all. And I think that's something that and we can shift gears a little bit, but like where we wanted to go and what we were doing weren't lining up. And we both had to say, like, we have to change, right? Like, one of my favorite lines, I think I got it from Robert Kiyosaki, is like, be, do, and have. Everybody wants to have. Very few people want to do, and even less want to be. So like somebody's not just a millionaire and they're not being a millionaire. Like, they have the millionaire lifestyle because they did things, but they really became somebody different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And everybody just wants to, like, especially with social media life, just take the shortcut and somehow bypass it. Or like they just think it's automatic, or success is just like, no, I just become successful in social media or real estate, or pick your thing. And it's like, no, dude, like Trisha picked up the phone and probably in 2016, 17, 18, 19 on your big come up, you probably made 2,500 calls, 700 appointments.
Knowing you have this all down.
You know,
Yes, I have all the key metrics.
I was going to say, I bet you have a calendar, and then other people.
does.
But then 5 years later, people are going to go, Trisha and Dave, like,
So lucky.
so lucky. And you're like, hey, we literally ate, slept, and breathed, and I burned up the phone 40 calls a day for 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's the year I made $200,000 or whatever, But like other people, they just want the end and they don't want to, go through the thick of it.
Yeah, I did a live the other day about that because I was like doing my taxes and my whole office is surrounded by papers. And I'm like, next time you think that like your broker just takes your money, I want you to think about this video because I work from the time my eyes open, which usually open because they can hear my phone in the bathroom going at 5 a.m.
Yep.
And I work until I go to sleep, which I stay up because there's still more work to do, right?
Yep.
So it's like when I hear your stories, there's so many parallels because when me and Dave got together, you want to like feel like not only was our bank account negative, but we had 4 kids.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, you want to feel like a loser. Like you have 4 children. One wants to play hockey, which is the most expensive sport in the entire world. We took my sister in like, oh, I'll do a better job than my parents. Oh, I have no money.
Right.
A baby. He had a baby. Then we had a high schooler, a teenager. And I'm like, I don't even know how to like do any of this. And I'm drowning and I'm working. And like the same thing, like you're just, I had opened a brokerage and I was like being self-employed and I was like, I can't take care of like this Insta family and y'all. So I went to go work for some other guy and I was so desperate to just get a paycheck.
Right.
I didn't even ask the hours. And then I start working like dark to dark and I'm like sobbing. I'm like, none of this is working.
Yep.
But it's the communication. And just like you guys were saying, when we had first got together, like, I didn't want to admit, like, I'm trying really hard, but we're so broke and this is so bad. And, like, neither did Dave. And so instead of communicating, you just, like, argue and pick and, like, all of these things. And I think, like, that's where the win comes, right? When you realize, like, we have to get on the same page, right? Like, when you guys came and were like, Trish, tell everybody about your calendar. Like, that was such an epic moment because I think we all make these expectations in our minds. And if you don't tell the other person your expectations, they're like, what's happening here? Like, I'm crying and you're like, why are you angry? Well, because you should want to do the dishes. Baby, nobody wants to do the dishes.
Yes.
Like,
Dishes.
We can relate. It's been, so like people, and not that anybody says this about us, like, oh, they're successful. Like, dude, we always joke and like we make a meme out of it because we're like, hey, we bought a Tesla. Like one of my goals in life was to get a Tesla. It's a cool car, whatever. Like, and if you don't like Teslas, that's fine. By the way, I'm not like a greenie.
and I don't like you if you don't like Teslas.
Yeah, right.
Just
By the way,
turn
like,
it off.
and I got some big gas trucks too. Okay, so like relax, all right? I'm not a big greenie
We
here.
run a lot of gas equipment. Like,
For sure. I'm trying to get the hole back in the ozone. You know what I mean? We all got goals.
Right, now you're heating the planet and drowning us all. Great job, Brian.
You're welcome.
Hey, you can sell us a lake house, right? Or mountain home, actually.
Yeah, mountain home.
Something inland in Montana. But like the whole thing was like people like they see like the finished product for a lot of people. And I just really tell people, like, don't look at what people are doing today. Like, if you want to emulate success, don't look at what people are doing today. Like even Robert Kiyosaki, he's my dude. But like what he's doing today is not what he did in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. With his Rich Dad Company and writing books and then of course doing real estate. You know what I'm saying? So like people like they want like the finished product, but I'm like, actually, if there's a good time to study somebody, it's back when they were in the come up.
Right.
And people like, oh, like this actually took work. And I'm like, yeah, dude, a lot of work. And so whether people are like, I want the flashy car or like the watches or the home, and you guys bought your dream home and all this stuff. Yeah, dude, but like you don't buy it that year. It was from 4 years ago's effort.
Yeah.
But when do people quit? Year 1, year 2. And I'm like, no. Like the rocket, when it's taking off, like all that energy, all that explosion, all the noise, all like the flame and the smoke and all, like it's not going anywhere. You're like minute 1, for a rocket, some Elon Musk SpaceX, like that rocket for like 20 seconds is just fucking hovering there. It ain't doing shit. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it breaks out of the little stand or whatever it's called. Then it's like, 500 feet in the air. Then it's 5,000 feet in the air. And then it's all the way into orbit. And then, oh, by the way, like you get away from like the things that hold you back. And isn't it interesting like how easy it is to just maintain? But you got to escape that inner gravity, that inertia, and get momentum in your life. And that's called being in the zone. But like most people, they don't want to pay dues for that first 3 to 5 years. I just want it easy. I just want to have like the victory lap. And I'm like, bro, if you're not willing to like just struggle with the forces that hold you down or hold you back, or that you have to like ram through or punch through, like you will not make it. And so like Liz and I, like, well, this probably came more natural to Liz, but you're a fighter. You were like, you're like, oh, like we're eating rice and beans. We could eat less food. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, and like we delayed for not getting a car or a newer car for so long that we just wanted to pay dues for so long. And we overdid it. We really did.
It felt weird for a while to actually like pay less dues. Like you feel guilty almost after so long of like
enjoying the rewards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like tell like, so you wanted luxury bags. This is a good story, but like we didn't buy any luxury bags that 5 years.
I get intense. I am.
Shocker.
People are like, oh no, you're so sweet. I'm like, no, you have no idea.
She's a killer, folks. She's a
like,
killer.
We made the decision that we're getting personally out of debt. Not, like we invest in our business and whatever. That's different to us than personal debt.
Yeah.
And while we were going through personal, like, getting out of debt, I wasn't going to buy a handbag, which was my thing. I've always wanted, I don't know, I grew up during like Paris Hilton era. Like she always had like the little Speedy from Louis Vuitton dream bag, right? Like I'm not going to buy another single bag. I didn't have any at the time, but until we are personally out of debt and we hit like a certain income goal. Mm-hmm. And then we got there and it had been 4 years, I think it took
at least 4 or 5 years, yeah.
And I'm like, no, we're going to reset the goal. Because the goal chasing to me is better than like getting it.
That's the interesting thing.
Same way.
Yeah. And I don't know.
Now to be fair, I was like, yo, dude, we spent like some money on some bags because I was like, you're like, yeah, I don't really care anymore. I'm like, no. Like, don't rob your 4 year ago self, which put you on this journey. Like,
my
reward
bag that
yourself.
I had was like a tote bag. It had like holes in the corner, and he's like, you can't carry this thing around anymore.
I was like, Liz, you
Things
deserve
are gonna fall out.
We put some money in the bank, paid off a bunch of debt. I'm like, hey, I'm pretty sure like we're good to go. Like this is a little $1,500 bag, Which by the way, with inflation in the last 3 years, dude, like the bag's doubled in value. I'm like, hey, like
it's like an investment.
That's an investment. I was like, that's why she kept selling it as. I was like, I don't think that's true. Now I'm like, hey, buy more bags. But anyway, which way, it was funny. But for your first bag, like, just to maybe paint the dream a little bit for you guys, like we didn't just go to the local Louis Vuitton store at the nicer mall. I took Liz on, we did a little train ride. We went to Chicago, went to like one of the flagship stores, whatever they call that, and like we got dinner first, and like I was like, got some flowers, and like we made it a big.
It was a whole experience, which is really cool.
And you bought your bag, and like the lady had like the big oversized bag and all this mess, and it was one of those things like it was awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a good place. We're going to pause real quick and come back. We're going to share some tips and resources that you can use to maybe be awesome like us, might be able to get there.
There you go.
Do you know more than 80% of real estate agents fail and quit in their first year of business? MyStarsAcademy.com has set out to solve this problem by providing a convenient, expert-based training and coaching program for both agents and brokers. The Agent Accelerator program teaches agents everything they need to know to level up their business, have a constant flow of free leads, convert those leads into clients, and take those clients to the closing table and keep them coming back for more as repeat business. Our industry experts have years of proven success in the business and are here to share that gold through one-on-one coaching. This will help you achieve more structure and work-life balance. We will map you a plan you can follow, which will guide you through the steps to scale and grow in both your business and personal life. Don't be a statistic. Visit MyStarsAcademy.com and enroll today so you can get the success you deserve.
And we're back with the Fullertons. Before we go down any deeper in that hole, we better bring it back a little bit.
Reel it home.
So I mentioned in the beginning, you guys have so many different things that you have going on. You got the YouTube channel, you got the podcast, you're
writing books in Spanish.
You're writing books in Spanish,
Sí.
live events. Like, How in the world do you keep it all organized? Give
That's
our
why we were
listeners
asking
some
you about your
tips.
calendar, because we're like, I have no idea.
My Google Calendar.
Yeah.
I'll
Right.
do. I can show you guys the Google.
You'll have a seizure if you look at it. It's like being in the middle of
I can take you in my office and see the big giant calendar and family calendar too after we're done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What's your answer to it? I mean, I don't think we're doing anything crazy, you know. I look at Elon. I mean, everybody looks at the next guy, right? So I look at, you know, whoever. But like you look at Elon Musk or Warren Buffett, and I'm like, how do they get so much stuff done? I mean, Elon Musk got Tesla, space. He's like one of my guys, but Elon or SpaceX, Tesla, boring, you know, whatever, the AI stuff that he's doing and the chip thing in your head, like, God bless. Like, dude, I'm just like, what? And obviously he's got a great team and all this other mess. Like, that's obviously the answer. And I think that's actually our answer too, to be fair. Like, we have a lot of great people behind the scenes.
We do. And, you know, it's easy to look now at like, oh, they have all these plates spinning, but like we added it a plate at a time. We didn't just add in all of these things. So this is just like normal to us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we just spin one play and then either you got two options. You go run and spin another play, and then when that one starts getting wobbly, you run back and slap it again, make sure it stays up. Or like,
You put
obviously in business,
person in
you
that spot.
yeah, you hire somebody to slap that play and keep it going. So like the podcast, I hit start, I hit stop, and then we have a producer that produces the show. I really have. If we have a 3-day-a-week show and each show's a half hour, I've got an hour and a half committed to the show. Let's just say 2 hours. And then, you know, if I have a YouTube channel and we're, you know, uploading 3 videos a week and each video is 15 minutes, and I've gotten pretty good at filming 20 minutes of video to chop it down to 15, right? But that's a skill set. In the beginning, I would take like 2 hours of video and like, you know, surf through it all. And I'm like, oh my God, this is all awful.
It would take like 3 hours to edit like a 15-minute video.
For sure. But like, so if we have 3 videos that are 15 minutes, and it takes, let's say, triple that to edit, produce, thumbnails, title, all that mess. Okay, so I got, let's just say 3 hours a week into YouTube. So I got 3 hours into YouTube, 2 hours into the podcast. I make an Instagram post every day or something like that. That's 5 minutes, right? So like quantify that through the week. I got another hour. So I'm really 6-7 hours into the week, and then we do maybe some email and some ads and some brand deals or some marketing or something like that. I don't even know what that means, but like. Okay, so I got 10 hours a week into the whole social media quote unquote empire. And everybody's like, how do you do it? And I go, it's 10 hours a week, but it's 10 hours of focus time. It's a developed skill set. In the beginning, it was a little bit more messy, of course.
Yeah.
But we've hired people. We still do all of our own editing on pretty much everything.
Everything other than the podcast.
Everything other than the podcast. But you know, here's one thing I'll say, and this is like the not me trying to be rude, but let's just try to play at a different level, Brian, is how many times, like how many times do we hear the stat of like how many average hours a week of people watching TV? Mm-hmm. Right? And then like, you know, you see it all the time. It's like the average American watches 20 or 30 or 40 hours of TV a week.
It's crazy.
That's a whole nother work week. I'm like, that's insane. That's 2,000 hours a year.
Our family, so we had this whole conversation with them a few years ago about like we are trying to do big things, like we can't do family dinners, yada, yada, yada. They realized we didn't have a TV that year for Christmas and thought it was because we were poor, which maybe, but like we really just didn't have any interest in TV. Mm-hmm. They went in together.
They presented this, and we love our family in case they ever hear this, right? But they, at Christmas, like Christmas was done, and they go, hey, before you guys leave, we have one big family gift. And we're like, oh, cool, like what's up? Like we didn't know it was for us.
It was a pony.
Yeah, I wish, dude. Yeah, or a McLaren or something, right?
Probably got more use.
But they all squirted this thing out. It was all wrapped and stuff like that. And we're like, what the hell is this? And you can kind of figure it out. So we open it up, and it's like a 55-inch, you know, whatever TV. And I'm from like Walmart for like $300.
And they're like waiting for our reaction to like this big gift, and we're like, no.
We're like, hey, like it's kind of a big purchase. We all like went in on it, and it was a TV. And I'm like, we haven't watched TV in 5 years.
We've literally never had cable, like in our entire like we've never
I've
been.
watched TV in 15, 20 years, like regularly, like
Right.
since I was 18, 19. And, but like, that's my thing. Like, and then by the way, like people go to sporting events. Dude, I love sports just as much as anybody else. But people are like, hey man, you watching the Super Bowl? I go, I couldn't even tell you who's been in it the last 5 or 6 or 7 years. By the way, I'd love anybody listening in to tell me who played last year's Super Bowl. Not, 1 month ago, 2 months ago at the time of this recording, but who played the year before that? You might remember, but tell me 3 years ago. But I guarantee you not only spent the day, if not the week, preparing for the Super Bowl. And that time, I was burning up the phone. I was making YouTube videos. I was working and building. And that's all we were doing. And people are like, how do you get so much done? And I'm like, how do you not get so much done?
I think this is another reason why I love you guys so much, because people always think I'm weird. They're like, what about this Netflix special? And I'm like, I don't watch TV. And they just look at me like I'm an alien. Like, what do you mean? And I'm like,
or if you do watch that stuff, watch it after 11 o'clock.
Right. That's not to say that like we don't.
We went to
watch
movies.
TV or movies and stuff.
We've watched movies. We watched shows. We watched what was it, Naked and Afraid? Or is that Alone?
We
watched both
Both of those shows are good. I will just throw that out there right now.
It's funny, like we love those shows, and that also simultaneously describes our sex life. But that's so weird, like Naked and Afraid. And then also, what? You can edit that out, right, Dave? But like, it's just
he's
funny.
not going to, just so you know. We're trying to get our ratings up here. Come on, bring it up.
We're sensational. That'll be a clip. You know, you can do those reels like the Joe Rogan clips. You know, we have a Fullerton Unfiltered podcast as our podcast, right? And so we were like, hey, we need to get those like JRE clips, right? Like those go viral on their own.
Don't abbreviate.
And then I was like, wait a minute,
because it's all terrible.
I was like, what would our Fullerton Unfiltered? Oh crap, there'd be FU clips. Like that's not gonna work out on the mainstream. But like we still watched all those shows. We watched them at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. We're drooling on ourselves. We're going to bed. But like I watched The Mandalorian. I didn't watch it at 7 p.m. weekday mainstream Wednesdays when it came out and everybody's building hype on social media. I watched the show 3 months later in the winter, in the off season, when I had a little bit more downtime from my core business, right? Like I didn't miss anything by figuring out what little Yoda's doing. Like, dude, you're a grown man at 30.
Yeah.
Like it's just bizarre to me.
We swing the pendulum hard. So like we have times where we agree, okay, we're hitting it, we're on all eights. Like we don't have a whole lot of free time, we don't have a lot of social time. This is what we're doing in this season. And then we'll plan like our vacation and we'll do it big and we don't have problem. Then you don't feel guilt spending that money. Like I've never felt guilty about a single vacation we've done.
Talk to them about one of our core things is the book, The One Thing. I'm sure you guys have read it. If you guys haven't listened in, I think it's a great read. It's one of my top 5. But there's a chapter in there called Counterbalance. Right. So a lot of people always ask, like, how do you guys get so much done? I'm like, actually, it's pretty chaotic. Nothing is balanced in our life right now, but we're big advocates of counterbalance. So talk about that for a second.
I think balance, people get confused. Like, well, I should be able to be home every day after work, for 5 o'clock and eat dinner with my family. I don't have a problem as a wife and mother explaining to my kid, yeah, daddy's not going to be home for dinner tonight because he's out there fighting for our family. You want nice things? You want to go on this trip? Okay, cool. Then when daddy gets home, we're going to act so excited to see him because he just laid it all on the line this week. Yep. Like if you, edify your other, your spouse or whatever to your kids, there are ways you can pitch everything. And, as long as your heart is in the right place, of course. But I've never had an issue. Like he's going to get ready to leave this next week. He's doing his spring tour. I'm 9 months pregnant, like could have the baby at any moment. And we're like, okay, realistic plan. If I go into labor, my mom will be at the birth center with me. You can fly home from wherever it is and
I'll be home in 3 or 4 hours.
In 3 or 4 hours and it'll be fine. Some people look at that and they're like, you're insane. Like I would never forgive my husband for missing the birth of my child. I'm like, but it's for the child that he's doing this. Like it's, so it's all about perspective. And the counterbalance to that is, we're in a position where when we do have the baby, Brian's able to be home. I've asked for 15 days of nothing. Like of just being together as a family. And then you know what? Let's go get it. We have like plans after that. And
I can be available for that. But if you don't have that margin or get that surplus or swing the pendulum of work to get the pendulum of, so like let me give you a quick example. Like if you want to work out, be a good parent, be a good spouse, eat right, and it's hard to do all of it at once. Like you can like pick 1 or 2 things, maybe 3. I've never seen anybody pick 7 things and be great at it. Right. And my analogy is look at Olympians. Like, yes, they're like the gold medal winners, but usually their personal life is, frankly, it's a mess. Their finances sometimes is a mess. We all know like the athlete that goes broke. And so they're not there for their kids. Kobe's not there. Kobe, rest in peace. He was not there for his kids. And some people will be like, well, you're a bad parent. And he'd be like, well, I'm a great parent because I'm teaching my kids to win at the highest level. So it's just like whatever level you want to play at. That's why we're not judging if anybody wants to do whatever. But you can't typically be a 9 or a 10 in more than 1, if 2 things. Yeah. So what we do is, hey, let's go be a 10 at something that day, and some things are going to suffer. And look, you got to put the Cheerios back in the bowl, right? But then, hey, let's swing the pendulum, and then we're going to take a family trip for a week, and daddy's not going to be working, and daddy's going to be all in. By the way, and of course your kids want time and love. They don't care about nice things. They don't give a shit. But at the same time, it is nicer to go on a cruise on Royal Caribbean than it is packed in like sardines on Carnival. Yeah. Right? It is nice to go rent out a private beach home at Destin, Florida on a private beach than to go do spring break beach, when you're down paying $100 a night at the Holiday Inn, or down some crack alley, motel. Right? So like, and some people we grew up in the motel. And I didn't hate it. I was grateful for it. And of course, it was all about the quality time. But like, I always say, like, if you lie about that, you'll lie about other things too. People are like, oh, I don't need a $50,000 Mercedes. I'm just fine with a $20,000 Ford Fusion. Sure, with 100,000 miles on it. I'm like, dude, just stop lying.
Yeah.
Like, lie to yourself. Don't lie to people. Don't lie to the public, right? Like, you can lie to yourself. That's your own ramifications. But don't lie to each other. Don't lie to your spouse. Like, here's one other thing. Like, ask your wife, ask your spouse, hey, would you rather go chase your career, or would you like to be a stay-at-home wife or mom to your 3 kids? Presented the opportunity, most women, and you can call me chauvinistic, I don't give a crap. Most women would love to be stay-at-home moms and take care of their kids. And if you're a high-performing achiever wife, then that's awesome too. Like, nobody's going to slate you for doing either or. But Trisha, I'm sure there's times where you're like, mommy's got to work. And then other times, hey, mommy's going to go on tour with Trent and go be #1 hockey mom.
And to have that flexibility, like that's what I love about what we do. Is
But you can't do both.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You can't do both at the same time. And that pendulum has to swing. So not to interrupt, but I don't want to leave that point. Like, you can't do all of it at once.
Yeah.
Like, you got to, like, mommy's got to close 7 homes this week, or hire 3 new people, or onboard this. And then guess what? I'm going to send my son out. And people are like, you're not going to drive with your son across the state line or the border? Like, what do you mean you're going to send him with the team or the crew or the coach bus with, like, the hockey team? You're not going to be there in the car with him? No, he's a grown adult. He's 17, 18, 19 years old. He can figure it out. But mommy will be there at 5 o'clock at puck drop on Friday to be there in the stand, #1 mom, supporting.
Yeah, I sent Trent to Paris when he was 8 because we were opening the new Elite office that you guys came to. And they're like, we want Trent to come and go to Paris and play hockey in France. And I'm like, can't. Me and his dad, we work together. We're opening this office. And they're like, we'll pay for him and take him. I'm like, great. And everybody's like, are you joking? You are the worst. And I'm like, am I really? Because I just did a podcast with Trent, and it's exactly what you're saying. Like, he specifically, like, Kylie's like, did you miss your mom when you were growing up? And he's like, I mean, very seldom I might have 1 or 2 memories. He's like, but I noticed, what I noticed is, my clothes got nicer.
Yeah.
Our house got bigger. She was able to say yes to everything that I needed and wanted.
Yeah,
personal
nutrition.
trainers, hockey camps, Paris.
Yeah.
Like, if I wanted to go do it, my mom could say yes, and I could go do it. And there was never a moment where I had to go, do we have the money for it? Because I knew my mom would sell a house or make a way. And, like, I continue that now. Like, I'll be like, well, Trent, blah, 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 this is really expensive. And he's like, well, if you want a cheaper life, make less money. You're not going to do that. So we're going to keep spending it.
Yeah.
So keep working.
Okay, so let me that's so good. That's so true. Okay, here's something that I found that works for Liz and I, right? Is we have weekly meetings that keep us on schedule for a couple and for our family.
Love that.
But annually, and I do this with my employees too, by the way, is you get a consensus. What do we want to do this year? Right? Like, you have to touch base with your employees. You have to touch base with your family. Like, hey, do we want to, and if you're driving a car and you're going around a racetrack, right? You're not just ramrodding it in 6th gear the whole time. You're going to find out that you're going to go into a corner. So there's times you're going to 5th gear, 4th gear, 3rd gear, 4th gear, 5th gear. And that's what you have to, in my opinion, and these are the people I'm learning from. This is what I've noticed is, like, they communicate, hey, team, what do you guys want to accomplish this year? Hey, family, what do you want to accomplish this year? Hey, this might be like this next 12 months for us. We're building a home. We're having a second baby. We got like another 80 grand on the books for our company, which is like 10, 15% growth. Like, there's a lot going on all at once. But it's a consensus decision, like the family unit, the family farm. And then my guys, the team, I said, hey, what do you guys want to do? They're like, hey, we want to make more money. One guy wants to buy a Harley Davidson. The other guy wants to get an apartment. Okay, so you guys are motivated to make more money. This isn't a, hey, let's just, downshift a gear. Everybody just kind of coast. No, it's they're hungry, we're hungry, we got another baby. Everybody wants to make more money. Okay, I got a consensus. Now let's go get it. But if you're just like this, I'm a leader, I'm out front, I'm a trailblazer. Yeah, if you're just top down, you're like, hey, everybody's growing and everybody's doing this. Well, dude, like, somebody might have just had their 3rd kid. They're having trouble in school. They're considering homeschooling. And actually, they were about to ask you to go down to part-time. And you're thinking you're going to ask them to start working 60 hours a week. Like, there's a complete dissonance there, right? And then people wonder, oh, I just can't keep anybody. Or you just can't find good help anymore. I'm like, maybe you're not being a good leader, which is a good listener first. Then build consensus. Now, that doesn't mean you lower your goal. It's you take inventory of what's out there. And then anything that's missing, you go figure out. Hire another person, hire another team member, hire house help. right? Whatever that is.
We do that personally. Like Brian took on a lot of the household tasks when I had Emmy. Like he does a lot. He did all of the laundry for I don't know how many months straight, all of the dishes. And he's like, this isn't working for me anymore. And I'm like, okay, what's the solution? And he's like, okay, we're getting laundry service, which our moms think we are just insane that people come and pick up our laundry, but it's what works for us. I can pay somebody to do it, and it's less than it would, he'd be making more doing something else than doing laundry. And it is what it is.
Go ahead. You want to keep going on that?
No, I'm just, that's what we talk about like at our weekly meetings is like, is this still working for you? Or is, just we need a shift in something, and it, you do it with your employees, you should do it with your spouse too.
Yeah. And I think that's a good thing to remember is for everybody is like what gets you to this level won't necessarily get you to the next level.
I love that level.
You have to be able to to communicate. Again, like that's the theme I feel like comes out of this talk is like communication is everything. Like if you want to be successful, communicate with your spouse, communicate with your people, like over communicate and listen. I love that you said listen because that's the part like I'm always working on.
We're all working on it, girl. You and me both.
We actually, so we have Together in the Trades. We have Together in the Trades not because we know everything about marriage. Like we've been married for
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
We definitely don't have it all figured out. Our whole rule probably between like 1 and 6 is probably not the healthiest thing. So we bring in actual professionals because we're like, if we know that we're sucking at this, we know that people in our industry probably need the help too. And
we're too prideful to go get marriage counseling, so we'll host a conference about marriage.
I'm about that life.
And bring people in.
We bring in legit counselor, like licensed marriage counselors, and that's the biggest topic this year is communication and how to receive communication too, because that's a big thing. Is it's really easy to be like, you need to do this, but to like receive it on the other end as well.
Yep. Well, and that's the thing too. Not to be like, again, we're not gurus here, okay, folks? Like we're learning. This is like stuff that works. I always tell people. One of my like go-to lines is like, look, nobody wants to document the beginning because it always is ugly for everybody, right? I always say like on Instagram, there's no if I could change any one thing of Instagram or social media, it'd be to have another tab, which would be the low light reel. Because that's the stuff that never makes it on social. Right. So everybody's got the highlight reel and the reels and the cute little audio tracks and like their best photo and their family. I'm like, hey, why don't you show me the 2 a.m. marriage fight that you guys were both going to get divorced? Why don't you show me when your equipment was broken or a broker quit or you invested all this time and money into a key person that you're like, this is going to change our game, and they quit and they just had a different vision. Like, show me the low light reel, right? So go ahead. Do you have a thought?
That's why we put it all on social media, because we're not anybody special. Like there is not a single thing you can find in our story that's like, that's the secret, that's the one thing. But by putting it out there, like we feel we wish somebody had put it out there so we could have taken a much easier road.
Well, to relate, to empathize. Like other people are going through bad days. Other people, in my industry, it's lawn care landscaping, right? So it's always equipment, employees, and weather. And you like the whole like, what is it, good, quality, and fast or whatever, pick two. I say the same thing with my business. It's weather, employees, or equipment, pick two. Because like something's always going on. Like everybody shows up, everything's working, and it's effing rain. Or like there's no rain. My guy showed up, but the equipment broke. It's always, so there's always life. And so I told Liz, I said, when we started doing some social media, I said, I want to show the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Because nobody wants to show the beginning. I said, we all know the end. Everybody, you can't go on Instagram for 10 seconds and not see the nice car, the nice jet, the beautiful husband, the beautiful spouse or girl, So I said, well, why doesn't anybody show the middle? The middle's like the grunt phase, the battle scar phase.
The most important part.
And that's really what people want to see. They want to know, like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one that's a mess. Like, we were talking about, like, I did, like, a leadership lunch, and we were talking about, like, how we don't have a lot of friends. And I'm like, it's crazy because, like, when I have to be, like, super intentional to try to, like, have a friend.
We talk about that all the time.
And then I was listening to Michelle Obama's book, and she's like, yeah, we did a national study, and 12% of people in the nation have 0 friends, and a third have less than 3. And I'm like, so this isn't a us problem. This is a world problem that nobody's brave enough to talk about.
Yeah, we're all on social media, but yet we're so disconnected.
Right.
Isn't it ironic? And that's just to button up that thought. Like, that's why we wanted to show the middle. It wasn't like, hey, here's us, and look at us, and, here's the wins. It's like, no, dude, we're all in this pursuit of growth. And like, how many times has everybody said like, it's success is a journey, not a destination, right? The old one. And then like you get the Louis Vuitton bag, or you get the Tesla, or you get the watch, or you get the nicer home, and you go, nah, like it's cool. You're glad. Like, thank God.
The fight for it was so much more fun.
But you're like, dude, I don't really care. Because like one of my go-to lines, and I know you know this one, is from Darren Hardy. He's like my boy. Like, Shout out to Darren if you ever listen to this. Like, if anybody's got Darren's cell phone, like, give him my number. Tell him Brian said good things about him. But any which way, like one of his lines is, "You can never quite own success. You can only rent it, and that rent is due every day." So like, okay, you do the work, and then you go get a purse or a car or a watch. What are you doing the next day? Because if you don't, like you can, there's only one way to coast, right? Downhill. Nobody's coast. Nature. I'm a landscaper. Nothing in nature is stagnant. Nothing. If it is, it's a swamp, and that's not producing like quality life.
Right.
Like the freakish creatures are in there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So something's growing or it's dying. And it might be ripe for 3 days. We all get some bananas. They're ripe for about 3 days. And then
Yep.
after that, what are they? They're bad.
I disagree. They're great for tortas.
Oh, there you go. There's always one out there, right, Dave? I was kidding.
Exception to the rule.
But like you can't coast. And so anyway, I just want to say, like, if you're on this journey, like it sounds so easy to say, but like in the thick of it is actually the funnest.
Yeah.
Like when it's the shit, like that's the best.
We always realize that we have the most arguments when things are good.
Well, that's what I'm
As
saying.
messed up as it
Idle time.
Yes. Yeah. I'm like, hey, I'm like, if we're fighting each other, then we're not fighting the enemy.
That's so good.
Right. And I'm like, dude, we like,
So good.
I'm like, if something's getting in the way of intimacy or communication, it's because something else is messing with the puzzle typically. Usually your own thought process number 2, and then you can go down different levels after that. But usually like it's a priorities thing or a communication thing. Right. So I'm like, if we're fighting each other or the horses are at different ends of the cart, like nothing's getting accomplished. In fact, like not only are we sacrificing, let's talk income for a second. Not only are we sacrificing the income today, but if we actually accomplish the level we wanted to get to, what's the daily income at that level that we're actually sacrificing? Right? So right now you're like, oh, I make $100 a day. Okay, but in 5 years you want to make $1,000 a day. So you're not just sacrificing the $100 a day by being an immature idiot and not figuring out your problems. You're really sacrificing the 5-year out goal of $1,000 a day or $50,000 a day.
Right.
Pick your level. And I'm like, Liz, we can't afford to not only not make the income today, but not make the income later.
Right.
Right? Because if we're all in this like success and investing and compounded interest and compounded returns, right? Like, why are we being so immature to not just figure it out? And that just, it's just real talk, man. Like, everybody wants the nice things. Everybody wants the nice life. But like, here's one analogy I have. Like, if I could ever make, you guys do a bunch of social media stuff. If I could ever make a video that would be like a YouTube short or just like a short video, it'd be like some guy that looks GQ as hell, but like you put some kind of like infrared light or black light or something like that, and he would like, you know, have his shirt off or something, and you would see like like all these scars all over the dude. Like you'd see a scar on his arm, you'd see like a scar on his neck, you'd see one across his chest where he had a heart attack. Like it's all like, you know, metaphors. You see the one on his back that's like a 12-inch scar, and you'd be like, dude, what the hell is that? Well, that's when his business partner stabbed him in the back. And I'm like, dude, it'd be like this really, because everybody thinks success is like the Lambo and all this stuff, but really it's the guy that's just, he's got the dark circles, the wind, you know, on his face, on his hair. He's just, you know, wind burned, and he's just crushed, and he's like all scarred up, and like he just looks like he came out of a bear attack.
Yeah.
You know, that's the successful guy. But everybody thinks it's the Lambos and all this stuff. And so, and I don't know if you can relate to any of that, but it's like, dude, you and I have just paid dues and just ate dirt for like 5-6 years, and like we got like 12 minutes of success, and people are like, you're successful. I'm like, well, really? Because I haven't slept in 5 years. I don't feel successful, even though you buy the nicer things and started to get the nicer things. I'm like, no, actually success for us was when we didn't sleep for about 5 years straight, and we put it all on the line.
Yeah, people are like, oh, you're going to have, you know, 2 kids under 2. You're never going to sleep again. I'm like, I wasn't sleeping anyway.
We weren't sleeping anyway. That's the best line.
No, we just get entertainment. You know?
Yeah, like we weren't
Free
sleeping
entertainment.
anyway. How do you get so much done? I'm like, well, we weren't sleeping much before. And then really that's I hate to say like haters or discouragers, but like it just shines a light on other people's lack of ambition and discipline. But people say, wait till you have kids and see if you can keep up then. Wait, oh, when you have your first one, you'll slow down. Like they're betting against you. And some of these people are like quote unquote friends or peers. And like, wait till you guys have kids. You'll see how difficult it really is because they have 2 kids. And
They just want to feel better about themselves because that's what they use. as
And I'm
their
like,
self-care.
actually, I'm going to work harder. Like we have a podcast episode today. It was called Reasons or Excuses. They're kind of both the same. But like some people have like, well, I have kids. I can't go to work. And then other people say, I have kids. That's why I have to go to work.
Yeah. Yes.
That's why I
love
have to win.
Perspective, right? And I loved that because I think that when you're a high achiever, I was talking about this the other day, like you're so self-aware, right? And you understand the perspective. And we actually did an episode too that was like excuses or like reasons to thrive, right? Like when Trent got pulled, he got called on a Thursday and they're like, bring him 25 hours north to Canada to live for the rest of his life. When? By Monday, take your time. And I'm like,
Take your time.
Take your time. You want me to take my firstborn son and bring him to another country and leave him in 3 days?
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. And I was like, I could have made like 1 bajillion. Oh, and I had to go run a marathon 3 days after that in Hawaii, the other side of the planet.
And then there was the Christmas party was
and
in the
Christmas
middle.
party for our company was 2 days on Saturday.
big
and
deal.
yeah, and I was like, I could have made like all of these excuses, or I could have been like, how are we gonna get this done? And so it was, how are we gonna get this done? And like, you guys are the same way. Like, you're like, okay, we got really good at this business. Now what can we add in? All right, now we got good at this. What can we add in? We got good at this. We can add in, and you like keep adding, and you're
It's
like,
constant.
here's all our
shifting of
reasons.
adding the things.
Yep.
Yeah, and I love what you said about the kids too, because often a lot of my realtors are females, and so they're like, oh, well, I have kids, and I'm like, your kids should be your reason. It should be your reason why you refuse to quit. The reason why you get on that phone and make those calls. Like that is my fire and my like to prove everybody wrong. Like I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna slay it, and my kid's gonna grow up and be amazing. And I don't care what any of you guys say, because I'm gonna make this happen. Like, let's go.
This is happening.
We dig it. Yeah.
That was me though. I was when we first started coaching together, she was like, so what's
tore
the
her up.
biggest impediment to you reaching your goals? I'm like, my kids and putting on pants. I don't want to do either of those things. And she's like, no, your kids should not be on that list.
Yeah.
Pants I can see, but kids should not be on the list.
What's up with the pants thing? Is there a
We'll get you
story there?
yoga pants.
Okay, yeah.
That's for next time.
Okay.
I'll know about that next time.
I dig it. Yeah, I like what you said about the self-aware thing, and it really, like, the reasons or excuses thing. I'd love to listen to that podcast episode if you guys send it to me, because that'd be really cool one to hear your guys' perspective.
Yeah.
But like, I think all the time people they don't realize that they can build a support system around them and a team around them. Like that's what we learned along the way. And I have a personal friend of mine. I believe he's becoming a friend of mine. His name is Tom, and he said business is a team sport. You know, and a lot of people, when you're self-employed or you're a business owner or a small business owner, like, you know, the 3 most dangerous words or expensive words in the English language are do it yourself. And what do we all want to do? Because we're drivers and we're quote unquote high achievers, if you want to use that, like we all think we can do it the best. And reality is, like, if somebody can do it 70, 80% of as good as you, that's a really good person to delegate to and have on your team.
This has been a big thing for me recently, because having 2 under 2, I'm not going to be able to eventually homeschool my kids and perform in the same capacity I am now. And so for so long, my ego has been wrapped up in what I physically do. And
versus getting the job done.
And so it's what's better for Emmy looking at me, because I want to raise a strong woman, and is it, well, mommy had, 16 different things on her plate and she did all of this and, it was whatever, blah, blah, blah. Or mommy's a freaking boss and mom, delegated this to this person and, it made it so that she had free time and we went to the zoo and she was also closing, these huge brand deals on this. Like that to me looks cooler than mommy had, all of the stuff that she's entrenched in and then didn't have time for any of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, Bill, it goes back to, like, what's the goal and how are you trying to accomplish it? And, if you're, like, in a canoe and it's just you, like, swimming on this thing and, like, pulling the paddles and the oars or whatever, like, dude, you're only going to go so far so fast. Mm-hmm. But, like, if you have 2 or 3 people in the canoe with you and your spouse, let's say, and whether it's a little rowboat thing or, you guys are both doing the double thing, dude, even better. But we've all seen, like, the videos of, like, some, Princeton school, and they got the little, like, creek and shit out front, and they got, like, some row, team out there, and there's 20 stud athletes just rowing this thing, and it's, like, going 45 miles an hour. They're all, like, huffing and puffing, but they're not, running red line either. They're in a strong, moderate row, but they got a team that's helping them do it, right? They're all in this thing together, making this whole ship move, and then people are going to be like, it's always weird, like on teams, there's an MVP, but, like, the whole team wins. Like, by the way, Super Bowl just finished up a month ago. I ask people all the time, like, do you actually know how many Super Bowl rings get made? Do you guys happen to know this one, by the way?
No.
So if you had to guess, how many Super Bowl rings get made for a team that wins the Super Bowl?
I don't know how many.
I don't even know how many people are in a football team.
12?
Okay, so let's say there's like 60.
Good.
40?
I think there's like 40, 60 guys on the team, right?
There's a lot on those sidelines.
So all the players, right? Like they're the
Right.
ones that play.
Yeah.
Incorrect answer, right? So all the athletic director, the whole athletic team, the medical team, the ownership, all the people that have anything to do with the team all get a Super Bowl ring.
I love that.
So there's really like 250 plus rings that get made for the Super Bowl winning team, right? So why? Because it's a team effort. It's not the quarterback that threw the touchdown, because that guy would never be there without the athletic guy or the junior athletic guy on the team that did the physical therapy to get his arms and legs ready for stretching 4 hours before the game.
Yeah.
Right. So, but everybody's like, I got to spike, I got a touchdown, I got to be like the game winning whatever. No, you have to build a team, and the team wins championships, not just you. But what does everybody want to do? They want the limelight, the spotlight. They want to be the guru. They want to be the answer person. Dude, Liz and I say this all the time. We have the line I'm going to go with next. You can be right or you can be rich.
Ooh.
Well, what you were talking about was how you're able to delegate to your company. And I think that what that really comes down to, and the difference between people who, like, a lot of people can get success, right? But to keep it, especially in the real estate industry, I don't know about the lawn and landscaping, but like we see people just like blow up, right? Like they're willing to make the calls, they're willing to do things, but you know what I see happens? Ego. Oh, yeah. They get that ego, and they're like the Lambos, the watches, and they stop. There's so many real estate brokers, they stop getting on the phones, they stop teaching, they stop selling, they stop doing all the things. They're just flashing their stuff, and then they explode. Like you guys are talking about, like, stay humble, like be humble enough to know, like, there's always someone who has more. There's always somebody that's doing better. You know what? I don't have to do everything because there's other people that can do it better. So I should pay them to do it, right? Like, let's delegate this out. Let's stay humble that there's a million other people that are better than us, and let's stay coachable, right? And I love how you're always talking about like your books and your podcast, because I'm like, you don't need to read this book because I just told you the whole thing because I read like 7 books at one time. Right.
Well, I think talking about the humility and really the comparison game. I mean, I here's what I'll just talk about me, and you can weigh in on this, Liz. But like I've tried, because I was such a basket case, like I had to put me back together, Humpty Dumpty over here, right? Like I can let that unravel really quickly, right? Like I have to know my strengths and weaknesses as a human being, right? And like what works for somebody might not work for you, but like if I start playing the compare game, I can get very jealous, very bitter, very envious really quick, right? Like, and then there's like all these different games you play, right? Like the justification game. Well, that guy has this because he doesn't have a kid or a wife, right? Like, oh, this husband, of course he's got this because look at his wife. Or look at this wife's got this going on because look at his husband. He does this, right? I mean, you can really put yourself in a negative headspace really quickly on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Most recently, so we have friends that we run together in the trades with, that the Almonds, if you've ever heard anything of ours, I think we talk about them all the time.
Yeah, they're great.
It's probably creepy. They're like one of our best friends. They're long distance. We're only good at being friends with people at a distance, apparently.
Yeah, like the whole see them 4 times a year thing.
Like we're
that
really
works.
good at intentional friendship, but like casual friendship, just forget it. We don't have time for it.
It's hard.
Yeah.
And so they recently built this dream shop for their business. And it was so cool to see because like as our friends were cheering them on, but all of this is happening as we pull the plug on our own project. And we have 6 different storage units. Like until recently, we never even owned our own grass. Like, and we own this lawn care company. Like, and we're on the internet and we're like, oh, we're a big deal writing books. We have LAL. We have all this stuff figured out. But like in the back end, we feel like such a fraud. And then to have this happen with our friends, we're like, oh, well, it's just because, this, that, and they're like, no, this is how like things get really sour really quickly. Like you have to keep yourself accountable and in a good headspace, and it's so hard sometimes.
And it really is something you have to work on yourself. And what we were accomplishing was different. What they're accomplishing,
right?
And by the way, they're at a different season of life than we are. Like we're popping out little babies, and they've got their youngest at 5 and their oldest at 10, and they're kind of like self-sufficient. And there's just certain things that we physically can't do, and that's okay. But like I think really, if I can give an encouraging word is, and a lot of you guys have heard this before, but really like, there's 2 different people in life, right? Like one is, I've heard this before. Okay, that's fine. Or maybe you haven't heard this before. Praise the Lord. Chalk that up to learning new things today. But then really the person that I want to challenge the most, if you're listening to this, is like, how much are you applying? Right? Like we've all heard all the same kind of success. Like success to me is very finite. There's not like a lot of like new success that's kind of coming out. Do you know what I'm saying though?
Yeah, right.
But what do we all do? Endlessly self-help. Endlessly listen to audiobooks, endlessly go to conferences and all this stuff. But I'm like, look, it's going to take you a decade. Most people probably take you a decade. It took me about 15 years because I'm a slow learner. But once you kind of realize that success is pretty finite, you have to then start realizing like, how much am I implementing and applying all this stuff? Because we've all heard like, get up at 6, work out, eat right, do all this stuff. How many people everybody knows how to get healthy.
Yeah.
But like the missing link isn't like you need to know more about being healthy to be healthy. It's an action thing,
Yeah.
right? So here's what I've found that's worked for me over the last 5 years, and this is just a silver bullet. The only time I'll probably ever say that is you just have to start comparing yourself to yourself. Because, man, I will tell you, like, the definition of insanity is, like, comparing yourself to other people. And it's just not a fair comparison.
Right.
But, like, this same time last year, record keeping really helps. But, hey, we had this much revenue for the company, or I made this many phone calls, or I worked out this many times that week. Like, those are the stuff that you can control, right? Like, we've all heard how many, control your actions and your attitude, right? That's the only thing you
Control the controllables.
Control the controllables, right? Amen. But how many times do we get on Instagram and then we see people like slaying it or killing it or crushing it or girl boss, and then we go, man, I don't know what they're doing that I'm not. Dude, like already you're going down. I'm just telling you, that's the first step on a journey of like the wrong direction. You have to look back inside and go, hey, good for them. I don't know the life circumstances. Good for them, right? Like maybe their parents gave them $100,000 last week and they were able to buy that car or that home.
Right.
You don't know. You don't know. Maybe they just hit the lottery, or maybe she got a pension or a buyout, or they sold some stock off like as an early employee, and now it appreciated 50x.
Or like something terrible happened and someone passed away.
Yeah.
Or they're not really killing it. Like there was
They
an
rented
agent
that
I thought
Lambo
that was
for the
like
day.
slaying it. I
Yeah.
looked up his numbers and it was nothing. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I should not compare
It's
myself
really
to
easy to
people.
rent a Lambo. I've learned.
That's a whole that's for sure. But like I would just encourage people, like, stop. This is what I had to do. I'm not telling you guys what to do. This is what I had to do. Stop comparing external, right, and start comparing internal. Like, okay, so we're at the cruise ship, I call it, at Charlevoix for the dinner cruise. Like, you don't know that guy might be 3 or 6 or 8 generations deep in wealth.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's a $75 million boat out in the harbor, and he's got a $25 million home with a $25 million jet. That guy's 8 families deep in Chase, JP Morgan Chase. Or whatever. He's a nephew.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying that's the case. And there's no
not
excuses.
saying that like you should say, well, I'm never going to get there. I might as well not even try. Like, we're not saying that, but just look at apples to apples.
Yeah, give yourself a fighting chance. Like we compare insurance a lot. I'm sure you guys do too. Like I always tell people, like, hey, I can beat anybody's rate with insurance. I can beat anybody's rate with lawn and landscaping services. You could probably beat anybody's price for your services. But like, what are you really getting?
Yeah, you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay
You
for.
get what you pay for.
And you got to compare apples to apples. Like, oh, this insurance policy is $2,000 a year and that one's $2,000 a year, but this one doesn't have the same kind of coverage, but this one has terrorism insurance. It's like, dude, they're totally different policies.
Yeah, I can throw a sign in your yard and not talk to you again.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
$100.
So
For my sign.
Work on yourself, work on the controllables. I like that. That's a great line. And own it. Like, make it personal to you. And like, you want to be the hardest working person like in the room, right? Like that's something that I've always tried to strive at. Like you walk into something, you go, look, I don't know anybody's success here, but I know what I did this week, and I'll put my calendar against anybody else's, right? Like create yourself as like Trent's going into the pros and all this stuff, and it's crazy watching his career unfold. Like he's got to be a first round draft pick, but you have to do first round draft pick activities.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't just become a first round draft pick or second or 20th, right? So I tell people, like, compare your calendar to yourself, worry about what you can control. And I think that'll give a lot of people the grace and the freedom to live in their own skin, work at the level you want to participate at, pay the dues that you want to pay, right? Like we've talked about that. And I think that's a solid recipe for not only success, but also happiness.
Yeah, I love that. Because if you look at where you were 5 years ago, you're like, oh, I'm doing so good.
Yeah. Oh my God. And
That's so much better to look at than somebody else.
yeah. And you can read this in the books, but I'm telling you, until you apply it, it just sounds like other good stuff that other people say. But I will challenge you, like, learn it, apply it. You will see it to come true in your own life. Success isn't like this elusive, esoteric thing, right? Like it's finite.
Yeah.
And I always I honestly, I came from very, very humble beginnings, like double wide trailer. And I was like, man, some people are just born with it. Some people weren't. And I had to challenge like that thought even. I'm like, where did I learn that? And by the way, I heard a great line. It might've been Darren Hardy, go figure. He's like my go-to. But he said, like, you have to think about what you're thinking about when your effort is low. Like when you're having a bad day, it's probably because you're thinking bad thoughts. And then you got to think, why the hell am I thinking bad thoughts? Right? Like we one of our life things was, hey, if it's okay to have a pity party. Everybody has them. It's okay to have a bad day. But don't let it be a bad day. Let it be a bad 15 minutes. Right? Like put a finite time. Like lock that down. Like I'm in a pissy mood for the next hour. Don't talk to me. Okay, that's fine. But after an hour, dude, you got 11 more hours in the workday, 8 more hours in the
I'll
workday.
literally go, I'm going to go cry in the shower, and then when I get out, I'll be fine. I do the same thing. I won't cry once my makeup's on for the day.
We just
that's the cutoff.
That's a lot of work,
It's
that we
just,
put into that.
No.
Yeah, I don't have time for that.
You have the same privilege, you know what I'm saying? But I say I'm gonna go cry in the shower, eat, and then I'm gonna come out. I'm gonna eat my feelings, like order lunch or get some DoorDash. And then after, normally for most dudes, there's the 3 S's. But if you can just at least do like sleep and some supper, you'll be fine with 2/3 of making a guy happy. Okay, but like that's for me. I just need to take a nap. Go eat some Jimmy John's, and then usually I'm back up on the horse, okay? So anyway, I don't know if that helps. That's a bonus tip.
It's good. It's good. We have 3 fun questions, and then we're going to let you guys go. You guys have poured so much good knowledge. And actually, before we ask our 3 questions, you guys have poured out so much knowledge. Can you let our listeners know like where they can listen to your podcast, see your stuff, find you guys?
Really simply, first off, you got to give Liz a follow on IG. She's like the beautiful, cute, fun Instagram account.
I love your Instagram account.
She makes
Especially if you're a mom, like all moms need to go see all her stuff. It's so good.
Liz is like my secret weapon. I'm telling you guys. I'm trying to like not let it be a secret weapon. I'm like, you need to do more. Like, you're awesome. Actually, you've taught me everything I know. But where's your Instagram account? Elizabeth.Fullerton. Mm-hmm. All right, Elizabeth.
Very easy.
Very, very easy. And then I'm at on Instagram at BriansLawnMaintenance. Our YouTube channel, if you, God forbid you want to learn about lawn care, it's at BriansLawnMaintenance on YouTube. And then our podcast is Fullerton Unfiltered, and we do three shows a week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And you're on there about whenever I can get you, but every 5 to 10 episodes typically. Yeah. Which is always our best downloaded show. Like,
it's usually a bunch of nonsense by that point.
It is so fun. I was in my car and I stayed outside in my car listening to you guys this last episode when you were talking.
Me. She's like, it's just the 2 of them talking, and they said it wasn't great, but this is good.
Really?
Yeah, you guys are like, this is a train wreck, and I'm like, I'm sitting listening. I haven't even went in my house.
A train wreck.
Yeah, everybody looks at a good train wreck, right?
Everybody does.
That's our secret. Forrest Gump your way to the finish line.
We've actually talked about doing like frequently asked questions on Fridays together, just to give us a topic, because usually what happens is we have guests and like we planned out all these cool episodes, and then when we get together we're like, okay, I don't even have a brain.
I'm like, hey,
anymore.
what do you want to talk about this week? She goes, I don't even know what we do. And I go,
what's my name?
I go, I don't even know either, because you're so tired or exhausted, or you're just paying dues and grinding.
So you never know what's going to be.
But I think that's pretty much where you can find us, and super appreciate the platform. This is so much fun. You guys are doing crazy. It's crazy to see like a year. You guys were what, a year and a half into this thing?
Yeah.
We started in like December of 21.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The world's ending still.
Yeah, the world was still ending.
Fire and brimstone.
I didn't even believe in this project until about like 25 episodes in.
Oh my gosh.
And I got a text from someone's like, I saw you on. I'm like, what, Pete? This
you
is
watched
insane.
this? Oh my God. That's so cool. Isn't it awesome?
It is. Fun. And I love what you said about like comparing yourself to yourself, because I had a lot of trouble with that. Just like I spent my 20s like just destroying my life. And so like in my 20s, I'm looking at all these girls that I went to school with who didn't destroy their lives.
Sure.
And I'm like, man, they're really happy. They got a good marriage. They got a baby, yada, yada. And then God pulls me through the muck, and then I come out the other side and I move back to Michigan and I actually start making like real life friends with these women. And they're like, oh yeah, that was a crap show. Like, we didn't like each other. We hated each other. We hurt each other. Our kid's a mess or whatever. And I'm like, all right, okay.
Yep.
But like I was telling Trisha, I was looking at some of our first podcast episodes, and I'm like, I had all my baby weight, and I'm just like, man, this is amazing. Like, so I back that. I back that ideology 100%.
Here's the last thing I'll say on that, because I love that story, like that testimony, like through your test is your testimony, right? Like here's one word that I use for us all the time. It's metamorphosis. Because like when the caterpillar goes in the little cocoon, it comes out a butterfly, a couple minutes later or whatever, like the whole story is. Like that's literally Liz and I. Like who we are, what we say, how we think, what we do, like how we treat each other. It's not even in the same galaxy just 5-6 years ago. Like it's not like we were so excited about cathedral ceiling on the 3rd floor of the apartment. They're like, hey, you'll have the cathedral ceilings. Here's a quick tip. If you're living on the 3rd floor of an apartment, you're bad broke. Okay? That's not a perk, okay? When they're charging you, like, they should give you a $20 discount. We paid for the privilege to walk up 3 flights of stairs. We're building our dream home, Trisha, as you guys know. And it's at 2,600 square feet is the first main level, because our master and everything's downstairs. We don't want to go upstairs ever again for the rest of our life.
The kids kids are up there, and that's their problem.
There's 1,000 square feet up there for the kids. I'll put them to bed until they're like 5, 6, 7, 8. After that, I am never going up on that part of the house ever again. The guy's like, hey, we should probably prep this for an elevator so it can go downstairs and upstairs. I go, no. I said, put an escalator for downstairs, but I am never going upstairs ever. He's like, oh, okay, dude, whatever. But I kid, but it's the truth. Like we've come from so far back, and I'm just telling you, anybody out there, it's not going to happen in a day. It's not going to happen in a week, a month, or a year. But like, give yourself 4 or 5 years. Like, give yourself a fighting chance. And by the way, like, you know, and if it takes 7 or 8 years, like, that's okay too. Mm-hmm. Just start. But I'm telling you, like, who we are today is a complete metamorphosis of who we were when we got started on this journey. And I'm telling you, like, this stuff works. Binge watching YouTube videos or these podcasts or working out at night and all this stuff. Like, it works. You just have to work it, as cliche as it sounds. Mm-hmm. All right, 3 questions. Let's roll. I got you.
If you could be, this is my question. If you could be any animal, what would you be?
Oh, Jesus.
This is my kind of question.
I love this question. It's so revealing.
I let Kylie go.
Liz literally asked these on the way here.
On the way here, I'm like, what does spring smell like to you? And he's like, what?
Dude, you want to know that answer? That's a bonus. We'll save that later.
Well, yeah.
So if we could be any one animal? Oh, Jesus.
I would be something I think that flies, but is also like I'd be like an eagle. Like, I don't want something to take me out. Like, I want to be able to take other things out, but like light enough where I can fly around and like be nimble.
That was an end-up thought. I want to be able to take people out and then fly away.
You just want to be an apex
I didn't
predator?
want to be at like the bottom of the food chain and be like a dove, you know?
She's like, did we not talk about the way I grew up, okay?
You guys are a bit bizarre. I'm
What
telling
would
you.
you be?
Okay, so
You'd
like
probably be something like a weasel.
a weasel. What, Dave? What happened here, dude? You can cut her out of this whole show. A weasel?
Because you're like, nee. I don't know.
What is that? What is that on video? Please tell me this will be a clip.
Yes.
Weagle. Dude,
What would you be?
I'm like, dude, this is so emasculating. It's not even fun. It doesn't matter what I say now.
Weasels are
I'm
they're
like, oh, I'd be an
ferocious.
apex predator. You know, like
I think eagles actually eat weasels.
Eagles eat weasels. Oh my God, if that's not the title of this show, I swear to God. Like,
Eagles eat weasels.
listen, people.
Everybody will watch it because they'll be like, what the heck
Is it? I was gonna say like apex predator, like something, but it doesn't even matter now what I say. I was gonna go with like a great white shark or something like that. That'd be pretty.
Okay.
Because like you can like explore a lot, and you're like, dude, nobody's gonna mess with you. You're a great white shark, you know. I was like either that or like a lion, you know, because like you're like the apex predator, bro. Like
No, I sent you that video
the hippo.
of the lioness dragging the.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's why I want to be a lion.
Domestic
So regardless of
disturbance?
what you pick, Liz is going to be a bigger thing that just eats you.
Well, so like a lioness, when she's in heat, they'll make love 100 times, and if the male lion's not interested, she'll bite his balls.
And like drag him by the ball.
Just so I was like,
Oh, wow.
So I guess I'm gonna be a lion, Dave. Like that's. Hopefully you're not an eagle though, but could you be a lioness? Because if you're in heat for 100 times, I'm like, I was gonna pick jackrabbit because those things will reproduce like crazy.
Okay, weird.
But any which way, I'm gonna go with great white
This
shark.
was very revealing.
I'm a weasel, great white shark.
I like it.
I'm a wark.
I'm gonna
A wark? Is that what? Maybe this is where narwhals came from.
That's gotta be it. Like mythical creatures are being created today.
I think narwhals are real.
We are losing all
aren't they?
credibility.
Are they real?
Narwhals?
This is an
I'm pretty sure they're real, right?
Like what's harder to believe? A unicorn or a horse with a horn or a giraffe? Right? Like if you had to compare those two creatures together, everybody's going to say a unicorn is way more realistic than a giraffe.
because we have deers.
That's exactly it.
Giraffes are creepy up front, though.
That's
like
what I'm
when I
saying.
went to the zoo with my grandma in Florida, I had never been up close with a giraffe, and I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
these are scary. They're not like cuddly little
No,
animals
they'll
like
ki-
you see when you're a
They're
kid.
They'll, like,
not.
kick a
They'll wing
tiger.
their neck around and take you right out. So hold on. So I have an unscripted question for
God.
sure.
Oh dear. Cut.
That timer
Hold
can't go
on.
fast enough. No, I was kidding.
We have a few minutes. So I learned this from Bevan, who's going through the police academy, and they asked the cadets these questions. And the best one was, who's your favorite villain?
Ooh.
Because it's easy to say who your favorite hero is. Everybody loves a hero, but who's your favorite villain?
You want to go first? I'm trying to think like who's bad guys. Like mine's instantly. I got it. There's a movie called Swordfish. Do you remember the movie Swordfish with Hugh Jackman
Yeah.
back in the day, the hacker movie?
Yeah.
And so basically, like, spoiler alert if you don't want to know about the movie Swordfish, double tap, 30-second fast forward. Long story short, the bad guy in the movie is trying to get money out of this like secret, CIA account to fund blowing up the bad guys. So he's like this vigilante, but you don't know that the whole time until like the last, 4 minutes of the movie.
That's
Good movie,
cheating.
classic movie. So I forget the guy's name, the character, you know, that John Travolta played. But I've always said, because this country's going to hell in a handbasket, I said, if anything, God forbid, ever happened to like Liz and my family and I was like left alone, I did a public record, I would be a vigilante. Because I'm so sick and tired of so many messed up things. And somebody's got to clean it, and the justice system isn't doing it. So
it sounds like that's our next
podcast.
Yeah,
that's the crazy, creepy. But that swordfish character, like he's a bad guy, but really at the end of the movie, you realize the dude's kind of the good guy, even though he's like crazy, you know. Yeah. But any which way, that's my bad guy.
Her face while you're explaining this is priceless. She's like, well, I was kind of just thinking like
Superman.
Ursula.
I literally was thinking about Ursula because she eats a little shrimp and they always look so good, or the hyenas in Lion King because they're just so Ed or whatever his name is.
We're on the same level. That
was not at all what I was thinking.
I was like deep thought answer. Like I thought this stuff through, like because it's just ridiculous. But
yeah.
Okay.
No,
anyway,
I'm not that smart. I guess.
What was that your son or somebody that?
That was Bevan, one of my good friends.
Oh, okay.
She was in real estate with me, and then something happened in her life, and she was, long story short, in the military for 7 years.
Okay.
And what I love about her most is like if you met her, you would never guess that she can jump on your back and twist your head off.
like
just totally
ScarJo kind of deal, Black Widow.
Yeah.
So what was like the psychology answer? Like, you know, when you saw like the black and white dots and somebody's like, oh, axe murderer.
It reveals more about your character, because I kind of went down the same road as you,
like
but
dark.
A little bit more. Like I picked, because she asked me, she didn't explain it to me first, she just asked me. She picked Bane from Batman, which explains a lot about her.
Sure.
But like I picked the Joker from Batman.
Yeah.
And she's like, why? I'm like, because I have this, there's always this duality, and I just want to go to the other end of the spectrum and be crazy for no reason.
To see what happens.
I just want to be crazy for no reason.
You should do it once in a while.
What is the dumb hyenas
already?
Yeah.
You like to laugh.
You like to laugh. Yeah, what's this hyena?
I'm gonna have to think. I don't know why my mind
Mine's
went to like
about
Disney
like
movies.
mine's probably about like
means you're a good like Batman and Robin. Like
I'm all about justice.
A good sidekick.
Justice.
Because that's what they were.
This
were
is so
sidekicks.
bizarre. But that's why I had to ask. I'm like, there's more to this question.
Yeah, she said that they asked, and she's like, it just reveals a lot more about your character, like what you're really into. Apparently, you're into cracking up, and you're into justice, and I'm into craziness. You haven't answered the question.
Yeah, Trisha.
She's abstaining. She's holding the fifth. You know. Like,
Did you see her face?
I know. She's like, we'll revisit.
Well, the funny thing is when we were playing that Bye Felicia game at Aunt Cindy's, that was actually one of the questions is you had to name villains, and I said Biden.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everybody looked at me, and I'm like, everybody's like, he's a villain. Like nobody likes him. Everybody talks crap about him.
You've been hanging out with me too long.
It was just
hanging out
the
with
first
me
thing
too
that came to my head. Like everybody else was like Joker, and like all these things. And I'm like Biden. And
Yeah. I get it.
We're getting shut down.
We'll all get
Karen
canceled.
Jean Pear is
Podcasting is
that's
the
why
wild,
I was
wild
staying
west.
quiet because we tried to like not do politics.
Yeah. No.
She won't let me.
We'll come back for a whole politics show.
You'll have
That'd
to come on Fullerton and Filter.
that's all I talk about.
Yeah, we'll come to your show and we'll talk
money,
about that
guns,
stuff.
sex, pride, all these things. Like those are all the topics we only get into half the time.
I only ever really listen to like you guys, like Andy Frisella.
Yeah.
So like that's my whole shit.
It's the jam. Real talk, man.
Oh, this is good.
we got 2 more questions, or is that all of them?
I don't know.
If you had one wish, what would you wish for?
That's Trisha's question. You could tell she wrote
Outside of like the ask
I'm
for
on
more
Miss
wishes.
America.
Yeah, actually, Kylie always specifies,
always
and you
say
can't ask for more wishes or a
for world
journey.
peace.
Okay.
You can't ask for world peace.
What's your one wish, Liz? You're not coming up with anything?
No.
We got a thing. I mean, it's
I
rapid
know.
fire. That's why you got
I
to
know,
first
I
thought.
know.
All
First
the
thought.
purses.
All the purses.
I got nothing. My brain's off.
If I had one wish, it would be to this sounds like a weird like low hanging fruit answer, but it'd be like to travel through time. But it wouldn't be to like get rich and all this kind of shit that everybody cares about. But it would be like, dude, imagine going back to like meet Abraham Lincoln, like when he's getting like sworn in,
He's
or like
probably really smelly.
or like okay thanks,
Yeah.
or like George Washington, or like Alexander the Great, or like in the Garden of Eden if you can go that far back. Like it'd be cool just to like be on like the sideline and just like look at these crazy formative life events. Like I would love to see the people or meet the people. I wouldn't even care if I met them. I would just like observe like George Washington. He's got like 4,000 guys against 30,000 guys. And you're just like, all right, troops, it's like America or die. Like this is like the Battle of the Bulge or what. I don't even know. You know what I'm saying? But like it'd probably be to like meet people like that back in the day, like these like just these people that just like the Apple Tim Cook guys and the Steve Jobs guys. Like these people changed history. Like that'd be cool. Like I couldn't care less about like, oh, I'd meet Larry Page with Google and I'd be an early investor. Dude, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, who cares? Or I'd found Amazon with Jeff Bezos. Like, who cares? But like meeting these people that like change the world, that to me, I don't know. I just think like low-key that'd be, because it's all about influence and like legacy, right? It always comes down to that.
Right.
And like these people are immortalized. Like Eisenhower Highway or, you know, JFK Airport. You know, like it'd be cool to have like your last name on something for the next 1,000 years.
Yeah, and you'd get to see like the real story, because just like when you read a book and you make a movie in your mind and then you see a movie and you're like, that's not how I planned it.
I get upset about that all the time.
Yes.
That would be super cool to actually see the real story, not like what we all learned in the history.
Well, like just talking about like how much of history do you think is actually correct?
Like being on the right side of history. We talk about that all the time. Like George Washington at one of the battles or whatever, he had like 4 bullet holes through his like coat, his bag, his horse got shot, but like he like on his coat, but he never got shot. Like all this like divine, what do they call it? Like
intervention.
Yeah, like all this stuff. Like America was like a divine, you know, to be country, and he was shot like 4, 5, 8 times or whatever the story is, you know. But like he never got shot, and you're just like, bro, I would love to be there and see like that kind of stuff.
I would like to talk to God and get answers for stuff without having to die.
Okay, I'll go with that one.
That's fair.
I have a lot of questions.
Me too. Centipedes. What happened there?
Drafts.
What happened?
It's funny you say that, because I had went to a new church and he was talking about like how you transition into talking to people about God. And he said, well, we asked the waitress, like, if you could talk to God, what's one question you would ask? And I put that on my Instagram story and 0 people answered. And I was really surprised, because I thought that like a lot of people would be like, whether it was negative or positive, they'd have something
engaging
to ask,
conversation.
you
Yeah.
know?
Nobody
And,
believes
like,
in God anymore. I think
0, you know. But
Well,
even if that's their answer, then you can.
There is no
start to
God.
have a
That's usually what I get when I put
conversation.
stuff
Why
out there.
do
Yeah,
you
that makes sense.
blah, blah, blah. So
I could
Interesting.
do a whole podcast about questions.
It sounds like we've got a couple other episodes that we're just gonna have.
We're
to
here,
get
man.
back
We're
together
here.
for.
I have the last question is, what would you go back and ask 15-year-old you, or tell 15-year-old you? What advice would you give to 15-year-old Brian and 15-year-old Liz?
Ooh.
Think of you when you were 15. What would you tell yourself?
Go ahead.
I would tell myself to be a lot kinder to myself.
Yeah.
A lot kinder.
I would say something like, man, like to your 15-year-old self.
Buy Google stock.
Yeah. Don't sell your Bitcoins. You know what I'm saying?
Oh God, the Bitcoin story.
I was doing Bitcoin in like at 24, 25, like in 2010, 11.
Don't sell your Bitcoin
Don't
for
sell
your
your Bitcoin.
wife's engagement ring.
Yeah, I cashed out my Bitcoins for her ring, her first engagement ring.
So you're not the first guy I've heard has told that story.
It's not
Alex
even this
at my
one. It's
gym had said the same
smaller.
thing. He's like,
Yeah.
Not even
buy that Bitcoin. It's on your hand.
I legit had them at $3 and $5 a coin, and when it peaked at 63 grand per coin or whatever it was like $22 million.
Did you look at Liz
Actually-
and say, don't
actually-
ever say I don't love you?
No, for sure. Actually, let me rephrase that. It was at 30 some grand we figured it out, and it was like 22 million. So when it went to 63 grand, it was 50, 80 million dollars, bro. Like, but you know, I keep telling Liz like, hey, you're worth it. Like, it's all
Totally
coming
worth
together.
it,
You know,
million.
like last year we made 100,000. It's worth it, or whatever. I don't know. I'd
It makes
say,
me want to throw up when we talk about
man, I would like. Okay, so there's I work in movies because I'm like a movie buff, you know what I mean? But in 30 seconds or less, it was the Knight's Tale movie, you know, with Heath Ledger back in the day. And the kid, like the whole story there is like he's trying to change the stars. And like, dude, I just relate to that story because I grew up in a trailer, like, and we've changed our stars.
Yeah.
You know, it took 15 years, but I don't want to get
We get
emotional.
all the way to the end of the episode. Now you're gonna cry.
I don't want to get emotional. I was like, don't cry today. But it's like the whole time they're just trying to change the stars, and at the end of the movie, he becomes a knight or whatever, right? And I'm like, dude, we did it. Like, we're not done, but like,
So you would go back and tell yourself it's all gonna be okay.
I would tell myself,
Hang in
dude, you
there.
can change your stars. Like, believe that you can change your stars. Not just hope or wish, but believe that you can.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
What about you guys? I want to know your answer.
You have 30 seconds.
We have 30
30
seconds.
Like maybe.
You can't change him. That is what I would tell myself. 100%. That would solve like all that 20s crap that I alluded to earlier.
Yeah.
Can't change him.
Valid.
The end. Boom.
Stop listening to what other people say you are. Definitely.
There
And
you
I'm
go.
still constantly telling myself that.
I like it.
You're worth more than you think, right?
You're not a doctor.
This
But
is good.
I'm also not fat, stupid, poor.
Exactly.
You know, like
Yep.
stop listening to the
You are
labels
loud,
that
though.
other people are putting on you.
You're allowed.
All right.
I am loud.
We're getting the let's go from producer Dave because we could probably just sit here and talk for like days
We'll
and
be
weeks
back.
and months
We're
and
very
years.
good at talking.
Yeah, us too. That's why that must be why we have successful podcasts, right?
Yeah, I guess.
For all of you, thank you so much for stopping by. We're so glad that you did. Please subscribe, listen, subscribe, share, like all of the things. You never know who needs to know or hear from all of the things that were said here. So much encouragement, motivation, tips, tricks, hacks. And come back next week for a new episode of Elite Life on Thursday.
And
Thanks,
go
guys.
check out Fullerton Unfiltered.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you.
I'm so
Appreciate you guys. Love you. All right. See ya.
Thank you.
We thank you so much for joining us today on the Elite Live with Trish and Kylie. Be sure to share the episode with a friend so we can continue bringing you more great tips on grit, grace, and real estate. You can also connect with us on Instagram, Facebook. We hope the ideas we share continue to help you build an empire and leave a legacy.
Have you seen this? This is more of a current events one. Have you seen the door frame challenge?
No.
Oh, go ahead, Liz. Tell them the door.
It's not a door frame challenge. It's just
I don't
a
know what they
thing
call
on
it.
TikTok where I don't know. They grab the top of the door frame.
Your
and
husband, your boy.
Yeah, and
grabs-
it's like attractive, and he doesn't understand why. And I'm like,
So like a
trying- it
lady
doesn't-
like
this
leans in the
isn't-
door frame, you know, and you like do like the handover, like this like, you know, 50 Shades of Grey thing or something. And then like it was a joke, and then like somebody tried it on their TikTok and they're like, ooh, and then Liz goes, really? And then she goes, just come here. And like she goes, put your hand here, and then I like smack the door frame and I lean over, I'm like, what do you want? She goes, oh. And I'm like,
Try it later.
I'm like, did we just get re-pregnant? Like,
Did you just get pregnant again?
I've never seen somebody melt so quickly in my life. I'm like, you mean flowers, jewelry, chocolate? All I had to do was stand in a door frame?
Yeah, you could have saved your money on the bag.
Oh my God, I would have just bought another door frame.
Dude, the other thing is reaching stuff that's in the top of the cabinet. I
It's
will
the
tell
same,
you.
like,
Same.
preface,
That
yeah.
must be it.
Yeah, it's like the taking up space, being able to like.
Just
I
grab
don't know.
things.
I
I'm like, let me
guess.
get
I
that
have
flower
no
for
idea.
you, sugar.
I'm not a psychologist.
Psychologist, sexologist, more like it, but